How's it going, everybody? I'm Brandon with Electrical Specialist, and today we're going to be continuing on the episode of Do I Need to Upgrade My Electrical Panel? The last time we talked about obsolete and defective panels, the Zinsco, the FPEs, the obvious ones. Today we're going to be talking about location. So we actually just got a call from one of our clients today. She'd like to move her panel. It's in a bathroom, so this is very relatable to what's happening on a day-to-day basis, whether you're buying or selling a home. Codes change throughout time. Sometimes you're just outside in the county where there are no rules, and somebody put one in a place they weren't supposed to, and now we're having to deal with it. So these are very relatable things that happen on a regular basis. So let's just jump into locations that might be a problem. So first one, we just talked about it, bathrooms. I'm sure somewhere along the line you've probably seen this, above a toilet off to the side. Usually it's a basement. Usually it wasn't a bathroom. It was an unfinished basement at some point. Somebody illegally, whether knowing or not knowing, finished it off and put it in a bathroom. Silly mistake. But so why is it illegal to be in a bathroom? Pretty obvious. There's going to be a shower in there. Even if there's not, there's a toilet, there's running water. Unless you're going to GFCI that thing, which is kind of expensive to do, it's probably better just to move it. There's lots of humidity, especially if it's a shower. Serious shock hazard. It's just not a place it's supposed to be. So if it's in a bathroom, you need to work on getting it out of there. Second one, this is a little more uncommon, but we do see it from time to time, is in a clothes closet. Notice how I'm saying clothes closet because it is allowable in a utility closet, just a storage closet if there's lots of space. The reason it cannot be in a clothes closet is because of mainly the clothes. Why? It's a fire hazard. There's obviously lots of combustible material. For those of you who do have a panel in a clothes closet, I think you'll know right away. Me and everybody else is going to put winter clothes, summer clothes. We're just going to pack that thing up. Closets are never big enough, especially in older homes. So you're going to have it floor to ceiling packed full of stuff. So not only is it a fire hazard, because those panels get hot, especially when they're getting older and malfunctioning, but it's also a shock hazard because in an emergency, you need to get to that panel now to shut it off. And now we're moving things out of the way and looking for the panel, and it needs immediate accessibility. And that's just not going to happen in a closed closet. We all know it. Fun fact also, in a closed closet, it's actually not legal to have an incandescent bulb. So that means the old pull chains, you walk in there, those are not legal anymore. Can you guess why? We're going to stack stuff up. We always had board games on the top shelf. Guess what? We stacked them up to the ceiling. We'd have sleeping bags up there. Well, that light's right up there. It's either on the wall above your head or it's on the ceiling, and you're stacking stuff up almost touching it. The old incandescent bulbs got really hot, started a lot of fires. Even the LED bulbs, especially the 100-watt ones, depending on how they put out the LED light, they can get pretty hot. Not all of them, but some of them do. We do not want those touching clothes or combustible materials. So kind of a thing of the past, but we need to know no panels in closed closets. In fact, no single bulb lights. You want like a fluorescent light in there or a newer LED. They sell very affordable ones. You can change that old single bulb out just to be safe. It's something we should get done. The third one we're going to talk about is stairwells. Some of you may have not seen this. We have definitely dealt with this. It happens a lot when the house is in transit of sale, buying or selling. It comes up on a home inspection. Not all home inspectors know this, but some people think it's common knowledge. I understand how it wouldn't be. You've seen a lot of them. But even if it's on a landing, there's usually not clearance issues. A stairwell is not quite wide enough. If it's in the middle of a staircase, that's obvious. I mean, you could think in an emergency, you're trying to run to it to open it. It's in the middle of the stairs. First of all, just working on it, you're standing like this. It's just not ideal. It's not a good location. The good thing is, every time I've come across this so far, the other side of the wall has been, we just flip-flopped it. So it's on one side of the wall in the staircase. We're able to gut it, cut a hole in the other side of the wall, turn it around. The wires could stay where they're at. That's a more budget-friendly way of moving it. Both of those were in a kitchen, but they were way away from the sink in an open area. So there is legal ways to do it. Just know if it's in a stairwell, even on a landing, it's something we want to address. It's not supposed to be there. The fourth one we're going to talk about is behind appliances or furniture. Yeah, I'm looking at you. I think we all know somebody, even in our own homes, there could be a washing machine. That's the most common, a washer or a dryer, a water heater. Just over time, as these older houses get remodeled, things get moved around. Maybe it's a rental. Maybe you didn't plan on having utilities in this rental and now you do, and that's the only place to put them. Because a lot of times that panel, legally, is in a utility closet for utilities, but you can't have the utility in the working space. What is the working space? I'll encourage you to look it up in the code, but think about it like this. It's more or less the size of a refrigerator. So about this, if you could put a refrigerator in front of a panel, don't do it, but that's about the size of the working space. Get a tape measure if you'd like, look in the code book, but it's roughly the size of a refrigerator in depth and length, up and down. So you need to have that space clear. Can't be any utilities in front of it. Can't be anything in front of it. It needs to be for quick emergency access to shut something off. Somebody's getting shocked, electrocuted. We need to stop it immediately. We need to be immediately open access the panel, shut the breaker off, shut the main off. There could be a fire happening. We need to shut things off. You need immediate access. So if there's any furniture, even a couch, we don't want to be climbing up on chairs or trying to move a couch out of the way while people's lives are in danger. Just need to have that thing out in the open, not behind any appliances or furniture. The fifth one we're going to go to is crawl spaces or attics, especially without working space or clearance and accessibility. A lot of these older homes have access through a very small, what's called scuttle hole in a closet, in a bedroom closet. It could be funny to a lot of people, but I don't know how many times I've had to let the air out of my lungs and squeeze with my elbows through a 2x2 hole, like, a small chimney size hole to get up into an attic. If you can imagine, if your main panel is up there, sub panels are a little different story sometimes, but your main panel of the house should not be somewhere where you have to get a child-sized person to squeeze through a hole and go in the dark looking for a panel to shut something off. Obviously, that's not ideal. Sometimes attics are only accessible from the outside, from an eave entrance. If you're in a big hurry and you need to shut something off, you sure can't go looking for an extension ladder to climb up the side of the house and pull screws out to gain access. That just doesn't work. Obviously, the same thing for a crawl space. It's usually a window well type access or a trap door, maybe underneath a washing machine that you might not even know is there. These are just obvious reasons they can't be there for access. Sometimes people don't realize how quickly you need to get to a panel to shut something off. We've all heard that sound of something electrifying, whether it's a rat out or a squirrel out on the line or just a plug that's kind of smoking or, something that's going bad. You need to be able to get to it fast, and those are not ideal situations. So crawl spaces and attics, let's just not do it. This one, the sixth one, is just kind of, I always be careful saying no brainer, but near flammable materials. Okay. You wouldn't think I'd have to say this, but believe me, it happens too much. We're talking about gasoline. People have 55-gallon barrels of gasoline. They've got, storing it up for the winter, or, they just happen to have, especially farm areas, more rural areas, they've got, propane. They've got paint stacked up. When people paint their house, they have 5-gallon buckets left over. That paint can be pretty flammable, and it's just stacked up there in front of the panel, next to the panel. We need to make sure that if that panel ages out and something fails in it and it starts on fire, that it's not just going to immediately take out the house. And that's what we want to make sure of, is that The panel can be a dangerous place with heat, and we don't need things that are combustible to be right up next to it. So the why is pretty obvious. Just please don't have flammable or things that might explode next to a heat source. 7, we're talking about outdoor enclosures. So it's not illegal to have your panel outdoors. In fact, a lot of people prefer it, especially on duplexes, places where you have rentals. It is nice to have them where you don't have to bother your tenants. We do a lot of panel moving from a basement or a bedroom to outside where the landlord can be in control. We don't love to see padlocks on them, but I'm getting off topic. That's not what we're talking about today. It's just, is it legal to have outside? Absolutely. You just have to make sure it's a 3R style enclosure. Water resistant, weather resistant. It has to be made for the elements, especially here in Kansas. We get every element all year round. It needs to be able to handle that and keep the elements away. We do see a lot of indoor panels. Here's the scenario. I think we've probably all seen this. Covered porch, right? Maybe they built it, it was just an outdoor porch and they put a cover over it and then eventually moved the panel outside thinking that having a covering is going to be okay to have a regular indoor panel because it's not raining directly on it. Well, especially again here in Kansas, we get sideways rain, and it's not just the rain, the moisture, dust, debris, everything, we have elements outside. It's just going to get hot, cold, ice. It needs to be a 3R weather rated enclosure to be outside. Well, that's really all the areas we're talking about today. So if you have one of those, feel free to reach out. We'd love to be able to answer any questions for you and help you out, give you some value there. Please like and subscribe so we can get these out to more people. And above all, thank you for watching.